came and he thought I was in a bed, but I didn't want to lay down, so he went and got a wheelchair to wheel me to CT since I couldn't walk that far. For about 3 days now, 4 days now, I just felt weird. Like, I'm used to feeling poopy, but it was just weird. And my nausea has been super weird. Like, breakthrough nausea, even with all the meds that I'm on. And uncomfortable, just not feeling great. So last week I had a dermatology appointment, and I was so excited because it was my last appointment for the year. And I totally told the parents and the amazing boyfriend, I was like, I made it, you know. Like, I totally made it through 2018, and I felt so happy about it. And then a few days later, I'm trying to figure out, why I feel so weird. And it was strange because it was like a familiar feeling, like I know I'd felt it before, but I just couldn't place it. And stomach was upset, back annoying, but I've been sleeping so horrible forever, but different because of the tube, because I have to lay on my back or my left side. Like, my right side just hurts. Well, if I lay on my right side, it's like my stomach or intestines or tube or something is like pulling on my left, so it's super owie. So I don't lay that way. So anyway, super familiar feeling. And like, I had like a stronger urge to pee, I guess. No pain or discomfort or anything like that, but just like an urgency. No problems going, I mean, anything. And then all of a sudden, I was really paying attention, and like, after I peed, the color of the water was weird, and I was like, oh no. So, at first I was thinking maybe like a weird UTI, but I didn't feel anything like my UTIs, and I get them enough to know what they feel like, and it didn't feel like that. And then I'm thinking, my back hurts, and weird nausea and all that. And so I was like, so I either have a kidney infection or kidney stones. So Sunday I messaged my doctor and I told her what was going on and asked what I needed to do. And that was like sometime like 10 or 11 in the morning. I mean, obviously I know that she's not there, but I was thinking as soon as I get in on Monday morning, you know, they'll let me know what I need to do, or, you know, have to make another trip to Dallas and have more tests done and whatever. And as the day progressed, like, I just got worse, and I got worse, and I got worse, and no amount of like Tylenol was touching it, or Motrin. And so I made it to about 10, maybe 10:30 that night, and knew I was not going to get out of an emergency room trip. And I don't know why I was stalling, because it was cold and it was rainy, and the longer I waited, the worse it was gonna be. So I told Miniman what was going on and told him that I was on the way to the hospital, and he just, you know, he doesn't need to come with me, and he just can hang out and whatever. So I texted my parents and asked if they were still awake, And so my mom said, yeah. She's like, is everything okay? And I said, well, I said, I think I've got a kidney problem. I said, I'm on the way to the emergency room, and I asked them to meet me there. It was about the same distance between the two of us. And so anyway, so I headed that direction, and my back hurt so bad. And thankfully there wasn't a lot of people on the road, so I didn't have to deal with a lot of traffic. Oh, excuse me. So that was nice. So we get to my health system's emergency room, which I'd never had to use before. And I didn't know how it was going to be, if it was going to be like super busy or whatever, but we get in there. And my parents met me at the door. It was very sweet. And so we go in there, and there's literally like 2 people in the waiting room, like, that needed to be seen. It was super awesome. And so I, you know, talked to the registration nurse and told her what was going on, and so she got me all banded up because I needed more hospital bands from this year. And they took the other couple people, you know, in front of me, and then the triage nurse called me in and asked me what was going on, and I told them. And you know, I have to carry my medical binder with me everywhere because they always ask so many questions, even in my health system, because they still have to kind of understand. And there's, oh my god, I can't even imagine how many pages are in my file at this point, like 2,500, 2,600 pages, I think. It's ridiculous. And so I gave him kind of a real quick, you know, this is what's going on, and I said I know something's wrong, and I said, you know, I've had kidney trouble since I had that problem with Topamax like 6 months ago. And I said my kidneys are just having a hard time keeping up. And I was like, you know, I think it's, I said I hope it's an infection and not stones, because Stones and I don't get along real well. I don't think they get along well with anybody. It's such a painful experience. I'd had it a couple times before. First time when I was 19. Second time in my 20s something. I don't remember when that one was. So anyways, triaged and all that good stuff, and then I was expecting to go back in the waiting room, and he was like, oh no, you're coming with me to a room. And I was like, okay. And so my mom came with me, and we got in the room and had to get, you know, changed and whatnot, and had to pee in a cup. It didn't look good, like, at all. And so then they had to have blood work and all that good stuff to see if my kidneys were functioning correctly, and CBC and all that. And so the nurse comes in to do my IV, and so we talked about all the things, and no matter what it was, I didn't think that I was gonna have to stay. So we talked about options on the IV and where to put it, and because normally I have to have lidocaine so I don't, you know, my POTS doesn't rear its ugly head and me pass out or start puking and whatever, and I don't think my body could have handled that. So we were waiting for the order for the lidocaine, and I was talking to the nurse, and my left elbow, like, of course, right in the actual crease of the elbow, it has a couple good veins still. And so he was like, I'm pretty positive I can get it in with one stick and no digging. And I was like, go for it. I said, but you start digging. I was like, you have to stop. And he was like, I promise. And so he did great, and he got it in super quick, and it never blew. And they did all the blood draws from that, and then hooked me up to fluids. We waited. I really didn't feel like it was all that long. My nurse was coming in and out, you know, doing stuff and running tests and asking questions and stuff, and she said that we were waiting for a CT scan, which I knew was coming. And met the ER doctor. He was super nice. Like, I've had several not good run-ins with ER doctors. Like, seems like they've less than no bedside manner, and just like, and I know that they have to be so highly like one to the next to the next to the next, because I mean it's the nature of it. But some of them have come across really rude, and I've had super condescending stuff before. Thankfully, I haven't had anything like that recently with all of the medical stuff that we finally know. So anyway, so he came in and I talked to him, told him all the things, and he was like, well, we're waiting on a CT scan. He was like, you know, it definitely looks like an infection or stones, so we just don't know which one yet. And so we waited for a few more minutes, and I'm just like pacing the hospital room. Thankfully, they put me on an IV pole that was wheelable, because it really hurts. Like, it hurt to sit down for a long amount of time. It's awful to lay down. And I just kept stretching my back like over and over and over again. I just kept feeling like if I could just stretch it like good enough, you know, it was like I'd get some relief. So, so my IV tech's name was John. My nurse's name was Jessica. My doctor's name was Matt. And then, the, transport guy came and he thought I was in a bed, but I didn't want to lay down, so he went and got a wheelchair to wheel me to CT, since I couldn't walk that far. So we like went out from the hallway that was the rooms like right into radiology. It was super convenient. So we got in there, and there was another tech, I don't know what her name was, and they got me on the table, which is fine. I mean, CT scans are like circular x-rays, like they're super easy. And the hardest part for me is that I have to put my legs down, like I have to lay flat. Oh, man. Oh, man. So my back's hurting awful. And then all of that like makes all my abdomen hurt when I had to lay down. So thankfully they did it really quick. I think I was only in there like 5 minutes, if that. It was super fast. So it took me a minute to get back up and off the table, and they were super patient and chatty, and they were real sweet. So my transport guy, his name was like Trace or something. He was really nice. Oh man. So he took me back to my room, and we changed the IV out again. I mean, moved the bag off the chair. And then I paced and paced. Oh, and the lady like in CT, she was like, we should have results in about an hour. And so I thought that was pretty good. You know, normally it takes a long time when you just have a regular CT scan done, but so I thought an hour was pretty great. So I go back in there in the room, and so I paced for a while, and then I sat down because I was so tired. And Mom and I were chatting about random stuff and trying to keep my mind occupied. And then Dr. Matt came in, and he was like, you were right, you've got kidney stone. And I was like, ugh. And he was like, and you win the lottery. You don't have one, you have two. And I was like, I was like, that's how awful. And I was like, so how big are they? You know, do we have to do anything about them, or is it just going to be miserable? I just try to pass them. And he said that he thinks they're small enough that I can pass them. And he said they're already in my ureters. So the line that goes from my kidney to my bladder. So what did he ask? we were talking about pain meds and stuff, and he was like, I know your history is complicated, and he was like, you know, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And I told him, I was like, you know, I said, my GI problems, like, take precedence over everything else. And with my GI stuff, you know, if I have narcotics, I said it slows everything down even more than it already is, which I don't need any help with. And he was like, I very much understand that. And I told him what I already had because of the other procedures, that I think I still have 2 other kinds here. So I told him what I had, what I think I had, and he was like, well, that's what I would have given you. And he was like, let me get you a shot of Toradol before you leave. And he said, you know, that should help at least for a few hours, get you some sort of relief, because I'd been so miserable all day. And I said, okay. So he left, and then just a couple minutes later, my nurse came in, and she was like, well, let me get your IV bag unhooked, and she was like, let me give you the meds. And I think my mom asked about it, and she was like, is that going to make her drowsy? Because I was still going to drive home. And the nurse was like, no, actually, she said it's the med, which I've heard of before. I don't know if I've had it before, but I know I've heard the name. It meant nothing to me. And she said that this is used a lot with, like, kidney problems and infections and stones and whatnot, because she said it kind of, like, focuses somehow on, like, the urinary tract sort of system, which I thought was really interesting. And she said it won't make you drowsy. You should be just fine, but it should give you, like, quite a bit of relief, you know, for several hours, which I thought was awesome. So she unhooked the bag, she put the meds through my IV, and then took the IV out, you know, band-aided me and whatnot. And so we're trying, I was trying to get dressed, and I looked down at one point, and the whole, like, everything, the gauze and stuff that she'd put under the band-aid, and the band-aid was totally soaked with blood, so thankfully she was still there, and so she changed it out for me, and it was fine at that point. And got all signed out with her, and with registration. The registration came in at some point to, so I knew all the stuffs, and so left at that point. Oh, kidney stones suck so bad. And everybody's like, you need to aggressively hydrate. I can't aggressively hydrate. That's not a thing. Because if I drink too much, then I just puke it all back up. Oh, man. And I can put some through my, like, fluids and stuff through my J. But even that, like, I'm so nauseous. So I'm still on all my nausea meds. And so anyway, so we left. My parents drove to their house. I drove back to mine, and I was fine. Like, I didn't feel weird at all, but I could tell that it took the edge off of the pain, which was super nice. And so I get back home. Miniman I had texted him while I was there and what we were waiting on and whatever, and he said that was awesome, and he was gonna finally go to sleep. And so I checked on him, and he was fine. And so I just got ready for bed and just got in bed, and I don't think it was until like 2:30 or something before I finally, like, really tried to go to sleep, because I had adrenaline in my system from everything, and I think part of it was the fact that I did have pain meds in, that I felt like I felt better than I had in like 3 days. And I didn't realize how bad it had gotten, you know, until it feels better. And I was like, I didn't want to go to sleep because I knew, first off, I knew when I woke up that I would hurt again, which sucked. And I sleep so poorly anyways, it's just, I don't want to sleep because it's just going to be awful nightmares and feeling horrible and more low-grade fevers and blah, blah, blah. So I did finally go to sleep, and the pain meds were still on board when I went to sleep. Slept horrible, woke up with a fever, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, so last night, I guess, after I got home, I messaged my doctor again and told her what had happened and that I went to the ER and that all the records should be there and the CAT scan and all that. And then asked her, you know, if I need to do anything else, you know, what follow-up do I need to do? And there's normally no question whatsoever when you pass the stone since the pain finally stops. But I don't know if I'm going to have like follow-up CT stuff, but I don't think so. Since I've had it before, I normally know when it's passed. And anyways, and then told him, you know, I'm going to keep having problems, unfortunately, because I just can't get enough liquid in. So we opened communication about maybe getting a central line in so I can IV from home, but it's just, obviously my body can't handle anything else like that right now at the moment. And, so anyways, I sent the message last night. So I got up this morning, and actually I didn't feel too bad when I woke up. Like, I wasn't hurting like horrible, which was so nice. It was not what I expected, which was really cool. And so got up and blah, blah, blah throughout the day. I hurt kind of off and on, just not horrible. And got a phone call from my doctor's office, my primary. It was my nurse calling, and she said, and she was like, yeah, we got your message about, you know, having a, you know, maybe a UTI, you know, something's going on kidney-wise and whatever. And I was like, did you get the second message? And she was like, no, not yet. And she was like, hold on, let me find it. And I was like, oh, I can give it to you real fast. I was like, everything got so bad. I went to the emergency room last night and they found 2 kidney stones. And she was like, oh, you poor thing. Like, she was really sweet. And she was like, okay, well, let me cancel the labs that I just ordered. And she goes, did they put you on antibiotics? And I said, no. I said, they told me to follow up with you guys, but I told her what happened and what they did. And she was like, yeah, she's like, we're going to put you on antibiotics. She's like, because the last thing you need is having a problem with the stone. It tears something, you get an infection on top of it. She's like, so we're just going to preempt all of that, which I was like, well, that would be great, because the last thing I need is to have, like, another infection somewhere. So she called it in for me and whatnot. I was going to wait, because I didn't really want to have to, like, drive back to my pharmacy. So I was going to wait until Wednesday after the holiday, and then I decided that was a very poor decision. And so I left, and Miniman came with me, and we went over there, and I got everything picked up. So they're the kind of meds that are supposed to turn your pee like orange or red or something like that. I've had them several times before with bad UTIs and stuff. And so my sweet pharmacist, and she was like, no, you have to make sure and eat with these, because she's like, they're going to tear your stomach up. And I'm like, oh, great, because I totally need that. And we just laughed, and she was like, what's going on this time? And I told her about the whole kidney stone issue, and she was like, oh my gosh. She's like, girl, you just can't catch a break. And I said, 2018 is going out like the bag of dicks. It's been all year. And this is my sweet little pharmacist lady. She's so adorable. And she left, and it just, I don't know, made me feel better. It was very cute. And my other head pharmacist was there too, so I talked to him, and they were just like, oh my gosh. And I was like, you know, my body's having such a hard time, and just ridiculous. So, I've taken 2 rounds of the antibiotics. Yes, they're tearing my stomach up. It doesn't matter what I have in there to start with. There's a certain amount of time after I take it, and then it's awful for hours. And I'm hurting, and it's completely New Year's Eve. I don't know what time it is now. It's gotta be really, I don't know what time is it. Hold on. It is 11:04. So, oh my gosh. So like 56 minutes left in this year, and I'm quite ready to say goodbye to 2018. I got a lot of information, but it was a very hard year. And I'm very ready for 2018 to be amazingly better. So, if you've ever wondered, kidney stones suck really bad. Oh my gosh, they suck really, really bad. Everybody talks about how horrible the pain is. It's really, really awful. It's like this, it's almost like a burr, like a bone spur, and it's traveling down passages that are not supposed to have anything, you know, in them, much less spiky, awful hard balls trying to move through it. It's awful. I've been almost in tears today, which is rare. I normally don't do that. Just not my thing. But, oh God, between my back hurting so bad and my stomach hurting so bad, and I can't get comfortable, and I'm exhausted on top of that with such poor sleep for so long. So, oh my goodness. I will say goodnight to 2018, and let's make 2019 way, way better. So, love you guys. Thanks so much for all the support and all the awesomeness, and I'll see you later. I'll see you next year. That's even better. Bye. No more kitty